All right, welcome back to another episode of the Real Life Investing Podcast with Jason and Rachel Wagner. We have an awesome guest with us today, a guy that does amazing things in real estate, but also this guy is he's multifaceted. He's a 75 hard champion. He's got just these life hacks of how to travel the world and how to utilize your credit card rewards and how to just do some really cool things. And the tricks behind that and make things a lot more feasible. And so, Wonderful Togbey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here, man.
I appreciate it. What is up?
All right. So first off, I want to cover 75 Hard because that is one of those programs that, obviously very dear to our hearts. What made you want to do the program? And have you I think you did it back in 2021, right?
Yes.
And have you done anything since to kind of keep up with some of those habits that you learned on 75 Hard?
Yes. All right. So let's get right into it. Right?
Yeah.
So yes, I started 75 Hard January 1st or 2nd of 2021. Right after, in between COVID, while I was at home for the past few months, I decided, I'm at my heaviest now and I don't like this, right? I learned about 75 Hard. I need to change something about it, which I did. And I got through it. It was phenomenal. It was hard. Actually, I want to get into something right at the top because I feel like after completing 75 Hard, there's one thing that I found out that I may have to give back my 75 Hard completion card here today.
Oh.
All right. So here's how I do it, right? So you have to do 2 workouts every day, right? I would typically go get my first workout, and when I'm done at the gym, I would immediately get a run in, right? And count that as 2, right? So actually, as of a few months ago, because I was telling a friend that, hey, I love 75 Hard. I haven't done anything else since then, and I can kind of see that I don't have that discipline and things that I want to do. I feel like I have these goals, and I looked at my 2022 board, I got a few things checked off, and 2021 was great at that because I did 75 Hard, it helped me do a few other things, right? I haven't done anything else since then. Family happened, babies happened. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to do this. And he told me, well, bro, you have to do 2 workouts with a 4-hour gap in between them. So I'm taking your 75 Hard completion card away from you and you have to do it again. So then I'm like, all right, I guess maybe because I didn't do that, maybe that's why I've kind of softened on a couple of things since then. But I actually came on here today to say, and I'm just going to get into it, and I'm going to need you guys to hold me accountable, that I did it, but I feel like I need to redo it. So yeah, I'm just going to keep that like that.
Here's one thing that I love about you, Wonderful, is that first off, your name is phenomenal. It's phenomenal, Mr. Wonderful. And then, but second, dude, you were so transparent. Dude, you're transparent with everything that you do. You Absolutely. Are this real estate phenom, doing these huge major projects, and you're very successful with it. But you also share the downside stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right? You share the losses. And you share hey, I was watching one of your videos. It was you were 200,000 over budget.
Oh yeah.
Of what you were expecting.
Yep.
And you shared that publicly. And then this is why I love you, man, because I feel like there's so many sunshines and rainbows, and it's hard to come across true, legitimate people that they're just dude, I'm going after this. It's really hard, and I'm going to share the whole side of things, the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's what you do, and that's what literally you just did with 75 Hard.
Yeah.
And you're like, bro, I didn't give 4 hours in between.
Yeah. I just feel like I just can't wake up, knowing there's these things that I'm fluffing about life. There's just the fluff that I can't put up with. Whether it's in real estate, like you said, I've come to find out after getting into real estate that some of the people that I learned from or looked up to, some of the things that I've been doing that I would go to them for help, they actually haven't done, or they told me to fantasize about it, right? So when I'm in the trenches and I'm going after them, I'm going to them, say, hey, what did you do when so and so happened? you would get some advice that you just know that someone who's gotten punched in the mouth wouldn't tell you this, because I can tell just because of how you would approach the situation that you haven't actually been there, right? So that's why I want to always share those things and also inspire, because I share them and I try to find a balance, right? Because sometimes knowing all the behind the scenes of things may actually make you want to be like, well, you know what? I don't know if I want to do this, right? But for the people that are actually going to put in the work, I feel like knowing what's on the way, what's possible, can go either way, good or bad, helps you prepare mentally for that. So then when you're in front of that situation, you can, you're better informed, better prepared, and you can face it head on. That's kind of how I approach, my sharing, or sometimes oversharing approach of life in general.
I love it, man. I love it. So, all right. So going back to 75 hard. All right. But you did 75 days.
I did. Yes, I did 75 days.
And then you just realized that after you completed the program, that you're like, oh shit, I actually should have had space in between the two workouts.
Yes.
But you still went through the tasks. And Rachel, what are the tasks at 75 hard?
So 2 45-minute workouts. One must be outside. Drink a gallon of water. Read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. Follow a diet of your choice, but no cheat meals, no alcohol, and then take a progress picture every day.
Man, I love that you just remembered all that. It's like so
Well, I've been thinking about it, honestly. but one thing I would note, because with the thing that you're saying you missed the consecutive workouts, I would agree that they do say you're not supposed to do it consecutively, but you did it pretty early. The program, I feel like at that point was still fairly new, and so some of the rules I think were a little hard to distinguish depending upon where you first heard about the program and where you got the rules from. So I could see how that could happen,
You're right. I think that's right. Because I heard about it, because I was telling other people about it, like, hey, you should do this, and that's when I found out about all this, the consecutive rule. But hey, I gotta do it how it's supposed to be done, and I just feel like it's it's one of those things. So the other thing I learned about 75 Hard is, and I think about any program that ends like that, right, is it's great to get you, to jolt you and burn habit, start habits, right, and get in the mode, get in the zone. But you still have to figure out a way to keep that stimulus going after the fact, right? Because there's a lot of things, and just in life in general, that I would think about a lot of things that once you do it, or you would just become this person who now is, this is just what you do now all of a sudden, right? Like I would think, honestly, okay, now that I've completed 75 Hard, I'm automatically going to become someone who works out twice a day, right? Or I'm just going to become someone who doesn't eat cake, or who doesn't drink. It will just be easy to do those things because I completed 75 Hard. And actually, that's not the case, right? If you let go, or after the fact, if you don't find a way to, you have to continue challenging yourself, right? It's going to help you build this pattern, and you have to realize at that point that, hey, I'm a lot further than I was when I started, and I should not, give up on certain things, right? Which I honestly, again, I did give up on certain things that I decided to pick back up on, and when I realized that, okay, when I go through those slumps, all right, it's been a week or two I haven't hit the gym, like I need to do this, right? Because now that I know that I can do it, right? When I know that I can have my daughter's birthday, was my first year birthday, was around that time. Everybody was here, everybody was eating cake, and everybody was eating good food, and I was like, nope, it's 8 o'clock. That's the diet I was on. I was doing some intermittent fasting. I could tell everybody else I was strong enough to say, this doesn't follow the plan that I need to, that I've given myself to follow, right? So it gave me that power to do it. So I think it's good to have something like that, like 75 Hard, that gets you through it. But you have to find ways to start another cycle, and I think that's what 75 life, or the 1 year does, hard, right? They live hard, right? So I think you just have to find ways to do that, and for people like myself that are out there that have done something and all of a sudden don't feel like, oh man, I didn't get the superpowers that I would expect to get, right? And like even as a parent, sometimes I would think now that I'm a dad, right, there are certain things that I'm just gonna be able to do now because I've been given this superpower, right? It's just not that way that I find things. You just do the work, and you're consistent with it, and eventually you change as that person that you want to become. But you still 100% have to put in the work, and it's every day, and it doesn't end.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points. It's it's a program to kind of get you back on track, is what I've recognized. But we've had to do it. I mean, I've completed it 3 times, and but the reason that I've gone back to it was because I fell off, right? And I was like, man, it is hard to develop the habits, and they say like habits really kind of develop after like 70 some days. Like that's what you chose, like 75 days, big round number like that. But I don't think that's right. Like, dude, I think you need over a year of like intense discipline to kind of like really shake your whole like habit system. And because now I'm a guy that I work out every day. I don't do 2 workouts, but I work out every day because I've recognized after the 3 times that I've done it and all of that time, like it's all of a sudden it's beat into my head that, man, when I do work out, I have the best days ever, and like I'm mentally sharp, and like if there's a day that I miss, I'm really kind of sluggish. But you don't recognize that stuff until you put yourself into the mode of I'm going to do a program because I've heard great things of it, and then I'm going to continue to try and keep those disciplines alive. And maybe I fall off, but if I want to get back on track again, there it is.
Exactly.
Right.
I can dial it back in. I can turn it on. Right.
Yeah.
And so. For sure, I need to do that again.
Yeah. Hey, man. Well, that's. I mean, we're probably at the same point. I'm maybe ready to do it again.
In my mind, I'm doing it in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you have the baby and.
Yeah, and get through the first.
So Rachel's pregnant with her 3rd child, and so the baby's due in May. But you were already talking like as soon as I have this baby, I'm starting.
Yeah, we'll need to find the discipline again, but
yeah.
Okay, so a couple of questions for you. So you had 1 kid when you did 75 hard?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to see if you could kind of speak a little bit to the balance of having kids while doing the program, what your wife kind of thought about it, and just like if there was anything going into it that you were like, gosh, this is going to be really hard, and if those moments came for you at all.
Yeah. The amazing thing about having a partner is that they can hold you accountable, right? And they can actually make things easier because once you get started and you show that you're committed, which for me, and when I told my wife about it, she was like, "Yeah, that's crazy. There's no way I can't do it. Good luck to you, though. I think you could." So, right? Then even that first one, she was, "All right, I think you can do this, babe." Like knowing, I don't really think she believed it then, but she was, "All right, I think you can do this." So I went, I think about a week or 2 in when I would get my workouts in, and what happened was having her actually allowed me to stick to the goal. So she would do things in the morning so that I would have time. Like sometimes I would think, okay, I'm just gonna knock out 2 workouts, or very late at night. She's like, no, you gotta. If you skip this, it's gonna be hard to get all 6 activities in there. So she helped me in that standpoint of making sure that I stick to the goal. Sometimes where we would travel. I think we went to we went out to Vegas, and I was right on the strip, and she helped me make sure I got those in, because I would try to, well, maybe this is somewhere that I think I was like trying to do it in like a covered parking lot, and I was, oh no, this isn't outside. You gotta get outside and do it. So
you did 75 hard in Vegas?
Yeah.
How brutal that is.
Wow.
That's a challenge.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
is a challenge.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think just having someone there helped with those things. But did it make it hard having kids? If you're on the sideline wondering if honestly, I don't think so. I mean, I didn't try it, without kids, so I can't really speak to that fact. But I was able to do it. Having a daughter, we have 2 now, so I'll see what that challenge looks like. But I mean, when you really think about it, it's more in the mind game, than it is what you have going on at home. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so much a mind game.
Yeah.
That's why it's a mental toughness program, right?
It's a mental toughness
It's not a
program.
fitness program. It's a mental toughness
It's a
program.
mental toughness program.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you have 2 kids at home.
I do. Two daughters.
2 daughters. What are their ages?
5 and 9 months.
5 and 9 months. Man, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you do all the things that you do? Because are you working a job too?
I am. Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
all right. So you're like full-time real estate investor.
Yeah.
You have a full-time job
Yeah. Full-time software engineer. Yeah.
and a family,
Family.
and you guys travel all the time.
Yep.
Like how do you do all this?
I mean, honestly, I just want to say my wife again, man, because it's like us. Here's the thing: we as a family got together, and really, these are the things that we want to do, right? And I think we read this book. I'm gonna forget it now, but this was a book by Lena Cardone, and I'll send you the title so we can share here. But it was about helping each other accomplish goals, where there's a role that you play to help your partner, achieve certain goals, right? So we came up, so sometimes we would, and I think it was more of, me being this warrior, right? It was going out and figuring out these things, and her helping me accomplish those things, so that as a family we can accomplish them, right? So a lot of things come to that. I get up, if I have, when I have to do work, sometimes when I need to take time to do work, I'll let her know, hey, today is it's a busier day than I need to do, and I need to focus on certain things. And she helps make sure home is okay, right? Whether, taking care of the kids, because I need it. Sometimes I have a lot going on, up here, right? With all those things, I wouldn't be able to, do all those things without being able to maintain the job, because I don't have hours, right? I can be checking on construction. I can be checking on projects, rental properties, in the middle of the night sometimes, right? Sometimes I have to leave things at home and go handle business, right? I'm ashamed to say this, but certain things that I do more on my rental properties that I don't even have the time to do for at home, right? Because that is business sometimes, and that does come with a priority. That's just what we've chosen for ourselves for this period of our season of our lives. And I think that's our game plan, and there are sacrifices that need to be made in order to do those things. And you just do it, man. I still think there's a lot more that can be done. It may seem like I'm doing something, but I tell myself, man, I can do a lot more. That's just the truth of it, man.
I love it, man. That's just like the drive that you have, right?
Absolutely.
Where'd all that come from?
Well, for me, it's just having a shorter time horizon. I want to put it that way. Just as an immigrant, moved to the States as a 16-year-old. Looking for. I don't know if I was 16. I was trying to really make a living. I was just trying to come to America and finish my college and get a good job, right? So then I did that, graduated, started working, and the thing about it is, having parents and people that you're responsible for at a young age like that makes you want to do more than just be good yourself, right? So I think myself now, I'm good, but I think about the sacrifices and things that my parents have made for us, right? And think about, how can I do? I've been given a lot in order to do a lot with, so I need to be able to use those opportunities that I have, and just in order to, I need to be able to use those to the maximum, right? And deliver. Have them reach their highest potential in life and in real estate. That's kind of everything that I do. I take old properties and turn them into new properties. I take the opportunities that I was given to be in this country and turn them into gold, I guess, if I can put it that way.
That's a great way to put it.
I love that. Yeah.
Can you share where are you originally from?
Yeah, I'm from Togo. Togo's in West Africa,
Okay.
French-speaking country. Yeah, we grew up there. That's where I was born and raised. Moved here when I was 16, and it took me about 7 or 8 years before going back as a 16-year-old. I think I returned around whatever that is, 23, 24. And yeah, it was great. As great as it is, I miss home sometimes, right? So,
Yeah.
and I do have to, and it costs to do those things, right? So that's another thing where I'm building a family here, but also have people back home that are counting on me, sisters. So I never forget home, right? So, and I need to do more in order to provide. I think that's the typical immigrant story, but even anyone else too, right? Like if you're born and raised in America, you have parents back home, which could just be a couple of blocks away, and I'm sure this is not uncommon. I think.
So your parents are back in Togo?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So is there anyone here on your family side with you?
Yeah, I have brothers and sisters here.
You got brothers and sisters
Yeah.
here? Yeah. Okay. And then you also have sisters that are back home in Togo?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of split.
Yeah.
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 I have a lot of siblings.
What was how many siblings do you have?
7.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got how many that are here in the States?
4 here.
4 here in the States?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And are they all in Chicago or are they?
No, they're all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Texas, North Carolina, Maryland.
Okay.
And all of these, yeah.
Yeah. So you're the only one in Chicago then? Of your
Yeah.
family? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into real estate or find like mentors? I guess how did you learn about it? You're coming here at 16 and your family's kind of spread out all over the place. Like and where did that desire come from? But then also how did you learn it?
Yeah, so how did I learn it? So I was working then. I got my 4-year degree. I was working. So the plan for us, let me say this. So I didn't really grow up with an entrepreneurial, mindset, right? It was go to school and you'll be good. Try to do your homework, be smart, and everything will take care of itself, right? Which I did for the most part. Right? I went to school, I got good grades, graduated, and I started working. Then decent salary, right? But then I realized how much not working for myself or having a job, still limited me in certain things, right? I remember even after 7 years, first time I got to go back home, I think I had a 2 weeks vacation, and I still had to worry about work the whole time I was there. And I was like, man, I have bought a house. No, I don't think I have bought a house then. But I just realized that, hey, even with all this money coming in, you still have to show up for work, and there is just not going to be enough to actually do more than just take care of every day. For me, I thought about what can I do, right? So I'm in tech, and at that time I was Facebook was hot, right? And so tech or app developers, right? So I was like, man, unless I can come up with the next Facebook, I'm screwed. I don't know how I'm ever gonna be able to reach the sweet life that Zuckerberg and all these guys have. So I just couldn't think of anything, right? And I remember I actually went to a tech conference, and it was about there was a talk about entrepreneurship, and this gentleman that came up talked about investing in real estate. It was supposed to be a talk about entrepreneurship and to starting apps, and because he was a real estate investor at that point and ran his own brokerage. No, I think he was a broker. Was he a broker? Anyway, he was in real estate, right? And he was going to share about how you can start your own business, right? Whether on the tech side. And I was like, no, actually, let me hear more about this other thing that you do, right? Let me hear about this real estate thing. You got some rentals, and what happens? Like you can, because I mean, that if you're getting, I knew, empirically that if you own a house and you rent out, you can make some money there, right? So that was about it. But that was the first person that I actually knew that actually owned the house, and people were paying him to have rent come in. So I sent him an email right after that and grabbed some coffee, sent him Casanova, which is, it sounds like a made up story. My name is this guy, his name is Casanova. Shout out to you, man. So he was kind enough to give me some of his time. This was when I was in Omaha, Nebraska. So, and we met up, and he just kind of gave me some resources at that point. And one of the biggest ones then was Bigger Pockets, which I started then just binging everything that I could find. Right at that time, I would my fiance was living here in Chicago, and I was in Omaha. So I would be on 8-hour drives listening to Bigger Pockets. Like I couldn't wait to come see her, because I know that I could get through 7 or 8 episodes then, right? Just listening, and for me it was all right. I just need to get enough to cover my costs. Right? So if I can get $200 a door, I would eventually be able to supplement my income and get out of working for money, right? So yeah, that was a long way to get to it, but that for me it made sense. I was like, I don't have any crazy revolutionary ideas. I don't have an app that's going to make that billions of users are going to be on. I have a little bit of money saved up because I'm a little frugal and for the most part. So this is a way for non-creative people to make some money. So I went all in, and yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Dude, that's amazing. So it takes somebody who's been successful in it to kind of plant the seed, but you did the work there. You reached out and said, hey, I'm interested in this real estate stuff. What's a good place I could go? He gave you Bigger Pockets, which is by far, that's where I started too, was Bigger Pockets. And then it was the Fire Within, which we know that you have, which was, I've got 8 hours here. I'm going to binge all of these episodes. It's literally what we would do. We would, on road trips, I'd be like, hey, you want to listen to a podcast? And we would just listen to the Bigger Pockets. And that was the reason that I was able to get her on board. Did you have any problem with getting your wife on board to do the real estate stuff?
So not really, because I was able to show, for me it's I like to show first. So by the time so we were married when I bought my first investment property. I already had a couple of investment properties. So I was lucky enough that I put in the work, right? So if you just have to show that you follow through on things, right? So I mean, even my friends that I needed to buy into that at that time, because we would always talk about it. Hey, we all know that we should own properties, because this is the way. It's like that, right? If you own rental properties, or if you own properties, you'll set yourself up for the future, because property always, value always goes up. So that part wasn't too hard. It was my circle that I actually had. I'm talking about road trips. I think there was a trip that we went on, and I had, if you imagine, 3 of my buddies, 2 in the back and one in the front. And I wanted to take my car because I knew that this is what I usually do on road trips. I listen to Bigger Pockets, and I made them sit through and listen to Bigger Pockets, and they had no interest in doing real estate, right? So I was, that's just the level of determination that you have to do this thing, right? If you can convince 3 of your friends that are going out of town to have a party, to sit in a car, and instead of jamming out to music, to sit through and listen to Bigger Pockets. I think at the end of the ride there, they all knew who Brandon Turner was and who Bigger Pockets was. So, you just have to show that type of commitment to people around you to really show that you put in the work. And surprisingly enough, people start helping you once they see that you're actually helping yourself to do something.
And those 3 guys that were in the car with you, did they turn into real estate investors?
You know what? They did not.
Okay. I bet you they wish they did.
Yes, but they always they have.
It's hard, man.
It's hard.
It takes a special person to commit and do it, because they were probably your age. Yeah. And there's so much stigma, which is dude, real estate's for the old guys, right? The old guys that got money and you can't get into the game. It's just too hard. But you had a little bit of money saved up. So like, let's kind of talk through like what was that first property like for you, and like, how'd you pull it off? And you're an immigrant, and so I'm assuming that you got financing. So like, how did that whole piece play into all this?
So I think buying my first house actually helped, but before buying the investment property. And I'll talk about the house first, because so this was 2017, and I've always had a roommate, through college. So I knew we were paying. I think our rent was about $900 at the time, or something like that. It was 2-bedroom apartment that we were renting. And we went to his brother, who owned the house, and who was the one person that I was comfortable enough to ask, hey, how much do you pay for this thing, right? And who told me, I believe his mortgage was around, I think it was $1,400. And at the time, for me, like it was a shock to me, because I know this thing is supposed to cost a few $100,000, to get a house like this. So when he took, because I didn't really put it together that, oh, like you actually don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. Like your mortgage can be as close as possible. Because I looked at it and I was like, oh, like you mean to tell me if I can add a couple more hundreds, I can buy a property and be able to live in it. I don't need I think he had a 4 or 5 bedroom house. I don't need this, right? If I can get something that was, I can buy it, start building equity instead of paying for rent, right? And I have my buddy here, we were already going 50-50 on the rent. Like, hey, would you be interested like in going 50-50 on the mortgage, right? So that's kind of how I sold that to him, and it turned out that was my first house hack, right? And the great thing about that experience is the realtor that I worked with at the time, made everything seamless for me. He made it a great experience, right? So I think if it hadn't been for him, or if I was, he helped me pick the right house for me, right? So that helped transition into our next property. And so then when I was done with that, and I was like, oh, okay, like, I had decent credit, and I didn't know how to do credit until I went to buy it. For me, my brother took me this advice before I got my first credit card. Hey, pay it off every month. That's all he said. And I was like, okay, like that's all I needed to know. And I just did that. And I'm glad he said that, because if he hadn't, I would just think this was just, I don't know if I would have done it, right? So just knowing those little things and being diligent with money helped me down the line, right? So just paying off my credit cards. I turned out, I think I went to, so I started talking to the banker then, okay, oh, you have a pretty good credit. I was like, okay, what does that mean? Well, we can get you this for, I think it was like 4% then. So I was able to get it. It was a conventional with 4% down loan. So I didn't have to go FHA, because they're like, well, I think conventional is good for you. Right? I didn't even know FHA was a thing then. So that's kind of how I got into the first one. This was, and I can get it. I think I put down maybe it was $150,000 house, and 3 or 4%. I think I put down.
Where was that?
It was in Omaha.
Oh, in Omaha. Okay. Yeah.
So that was. I think I put down 9,000. Something around there. There was a seller helped me out with some stuff. I just know that the realtor told me that, hey, you get some seller credits or things like that that help. So that was it. But I just want to say that just working with a realtor, then that helped me, not buy too big of a house, right? Because I was approved for a little more than that, and just making that process in my time. He wasn't in a rush, because we saw 3 or 4 houses. Well, actually a lot more, close to a dozen, before making the right decision. And he would flat out tell me, hey, I don't think you should buy this one. So, oh, okay, like this is good. I can actually, these guys are just out here to take these commission and bounce, right? So that helped. And so for the second house, I figured, okay, well, like I guess I earned a whole lot of money to do this, right? So I called him up and said, hey, I want to buy my second property. I still have a little bit of money saved up. And that house was $57,000 that I bought. It was
So much less than the first one.
much less than the first one, right?
Yeah.
And, right. So when I called him, actually, I was like, well, I don't know if I can afford another one, but I would like to. Can you help me get something else, right? And all he had to do was I just had to tell him what I was looking for, kind of what I can afford, and he started sending me a list of houses. And I didn't even know that there were houses that are less than $100,000. That would be decent, right? And I'm sure you probably, if you live in a different market now, they might not be 100,000, but it might be a lot less than what you actually think, right? Because you're probably looking at houses that you would live in, which this one maybe I could have lived. I mean, it wasn't a decent condition. It was a worst looking house in the best neighborhood I could afford, right? Which has been my formula for investing all throughout. Find a neighborhood that is good enough, buy the ugly house there, and you'll be okay. So we bought that house. I think it was listed for 90. We negotiated pretty hard. He did all that, and I got in 57,000.
Wow.
That's
So good negotiating.
What in the world?
Right.
You got like the best realtor of all time. It sounds like.
And and I closed it. I found out it was worth 78,000. So I was like,
Built-in equity.
I
I think
think
immediately.
built-in
Wow,
equity.
praise to your realtor, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How'd you get connected with him?
Oh wow, good question. I think
Was it just like a Zillow thing? or-
Yeah, no, I actually, I didn't know. I went on Zillow, looked up a house that I thought would be good for me to look at, and I went to see the house. He was selling, and I was like, I showed up and said, hey, I'm looking to buy a house, and he said, where's your realtor? And I was like, what's that? I don't have one of those. Would you, and he's like, oh, I can help you.
Yeah.
And directly I was like, you sure about this? Maybe he's just like, he'll talk me into buying his, right? So, luckily he didn't, right? He told me, well, I think this one is good for you, but if it's not for you, then it's not for you. Just let me know. So that's all right. I guess he can help me get to the next one. So I would test him a little bit on certain things like that. And I think you should do this with anyone you work with, because I try to do that with even contractors now. You just kind of see is this person always going to be a yes person, right? Like, is everything just going to be the greatest thing for you to get, right? So he'll tell me, he'll shoot it straight. He'll tell me, no, I don't think this one will work. I think this is probably a little better for what you're trying to do. And that was it.
Yeah, so you get the luck of the draw there. Yeah, so sometimes you get the agents through Zillow, where it's obviously I used to do that, right? But you can meet great people, if you're not a representative, and people will do that, and they'll meet the person that's showing them the house, so that they can show you some value, and you can feel like they're like an honest person, latch onto that, and it's cool that you kind of test them too. But all right, so go back to your. So the first house, just to kind of recap, the first house you bought with a buddy of yours, and you guys just basically split the mortgage.
So I was the only one on the
loan, but
right,
you kind of had a handshake agreement that you were splitting the mortgage.
Right. Well, I told him I think my mortgage was $1,200. I told him, hey, just give me $500.
Okay, cool.
And you're good. You live in the house. I had a little pool in the back. Said, hey, you want a house with a pool? Just give me $500. So that was the deal for him.
Yeah. All right. So then the second house you bought without intention to live there, right? So this is actually going to be like your first renovation project. So did you finance it, or did you pay cash for it?
I financed it.
Okay.
Yeah. As small as the loan was, I only had about 15% of that left in my bank account then. So whatever that ended up being is all I had, and I put down the down payment for it. I think I saved a little more to do some rehab for it, which actually, so got the house and didn't know anything about where I could get a lease or anything like that. I started going to meetups though, which was another thing. Number one, close top 5 success lessons. Just get around a community of people who are doing what you want to do. So going in there, the first conversations that I had with these people helped me save thousands of dollars, because I had in my mind that I had to do so many extra things that would not bring in more rent. Like I was going to redo the the driveway. I was like, all right, like this is gonna be I got a couple of bids that were going to be 9,000 or so. I was going to spend money on that. I was going to spend money on a lot of things that would not have made sense, right? Because I would have overdone it for that house. And being able to cut through, find out what needs to happen in order to get the best, rent or best property is the advice that they gave me. And I mean, a couple of good buddies of mine that I still call today for questions and things like that.
So that one, it turned into a rental for you?
Yes, it turned into a rental. It was not my first tenant paid rent the first month, and the second month did not.
Oh man!
So yeah,
What a start!
We're starting hitting bumps now. So if we can get into those bumps, because I know so far it's been pretty good. I had a luck of the draw with the realtor. Second house, did not want to pay rent, and I should have known.
Did you screen it?
Well,
or how'd you?
I did not do much of that. I think it was a lady that wanted to move in within the next couple of days. Met me at Walmart, gave me a check, and I was like, all right, here are the keys, and you're good to go.
Met you at Walmart?
Yep. Met me in the parking lot.
Not a red flag at all.
I had to work, and she was in a rush to get in, and I was like, all right, like, I was like, well, I'm at work now. She's like, well, I'll just come meet you there, and I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's exciting. Like, this is the way to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone that had money, that was cash ready to go, and don't do that. Should have been a little more patient with that. And I was able to. I think she went a few months without paying rent, and she ended up just taking off. And
how'd you get her out? Or?
Well, things are a little different than they are here in Chicago. It was, I didn't have to do, I think she just took, I think I maybe threatened an eviction then. That's all I needed to do then, I guess. And she took off. And I mean, she left a bunch of trash for me to handle. She wasn't the cleanest person. So, I mean, I've had war stories since then. Like, now if you tell me that I would have a tenant that would leave and just leave clutter and a mess, I'd be, hey, sign me up, right? Right, much better than someone who lived there for months and actually damaged the property. So, I mean, in all these things, the thing is, in hindsight, and I've gotten worse stories on that, but like looking back, like, man, that property, even. I think, so after, when she left the property, I got robbed then. Someone came in and vandalized the property, stole all the copper,
Wow.
in between that,
Jeez, so you got someone that's not paying rent, and then all of a sudden someone breaks into the house while it's vacant and steals all this stuff.
Yep. I wonder if, that wasn't a plan of theirs to come and take the rest of what they left behind. So, someone, took all that, and I didn't even, and I got in there. I didn't even know that I got robbed. I walked in and I just noticed things just didn't look quite right. And I called my plumber up to I was like, hey, but I'm not getting water. Like, come check this out. And he comes up, yo, they stole all your copper. They took your AC condenser outside. Like, you need to call the police.
Wow, gosh.
Yeah. So and then that happened, and at the time, I mean, it actually ended up being, believe it or not, because it ended up being a blessing in some way, because then I was able to call the insurance up and say, hey, I need all new plumbing done here, and I need a new AC condenser, and all these things that they were able to take care of for me. A couple of months later, I think I had to front the cost, and then they paid me back. But now I had a property that I could say, hey, I have brand new plumbing, I have a new AC unit, and I was able to then that $50,000 house, I believe I was able to get it refinanced and got a $40,000 check out of it. So
sometimes when you go through all these challenges and then you go to correct it, you actually get rewarded. Because
100%.
it kind of goes back to your comment where like, well, the market's always going up, right? And that's what we have been seeing, is that the market has been going up, and the longer that you hold the property, you might have some headaches, but if you have a big refinance situation, oh shit, it's worth more. Oh wait, I can pull this money out? What?
Right. That was it. And it was still, I was able to get better rent. I was able to do a few more things with that extra money. And I mean, this real estate game is just so real, so forgiving. And I mean, you do need time, right? So if I was let's say that I couldn't pay my mortgage right after that tenant did not pay, then I would have been screwed, because then the bank would have, came in and taken the place, right? So you do need to not overpay when you're buying, right? So once you do that and you don't, once you have that in place and you can give yourself a little bit of room with reserves and just just because real estate is forgiving, like don't just buy the house and take the extra money to buy, Tesla, right? Save some of that money for a rainy day, right? I still live frugally, so that's what allowed me to wait it out and solve these problems and get rewarded for them.
You still own the property?
I do.
No kidding.
I do, yeah.
Do you own both of the ones in Omaha?
I sold the one that I lived in.
Okay.
That had helped me buy other properties. So that was sold out during COVID. Lived in the property for 2-3 years. Moved here. I rented out for a few months to my buddies, and then I was getting close to getting out of the homeowners exception, where you get to sell the property and take up to $250,000 of tax-free profit, right? So I ended up selling it. I think I got a $70,000 check for that.
That was the first one?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, sweet. So then you ended up, at what point did you come to Chicago?
Yeah, so 2020 actually was when right before COVID is when I went to Chicago. We were expecting, my wife was expecting our first daughter, and moved to Chicago here. I would visit her, so I kind of knew, where she lived, and kind of saw that, there's a lot more activity going on in this part of town, which is Brownsville, and I kind of fell in love with it. So right when I moved here in January, I started looking for properties right then and there, and I thought, there's something going on here. I can build. Now I know what to do, right? I know I can get a 3-unit, 4-unit, live in one of the units and be able to increase my net worth, essentially.
Yeah, so you knew that stuff from Big Pockets, right? Because they talked about the house hack situations and how to do that.
Yeah.
There probably wasn't really were there multifamily properties in Omaha?
Yeah, not many. So I did end up buying a duplex after that other house in Omaha, but it wasn't in a place that I would my family would live in. It was a little rougher area.
And was that was a house hack then?
No, that was not a house hack. That was it was 67. So I convinced my brother to give me some money, and we went and half on that, and we put down 20%. Actually, I ended up being 25%, which of 70 grand, it wasn't terrible. But we were able to make that happen, which we still hold to.
You still have that one?
I still have that one.
Yeah. You've only sold one property so far.
Yep, that's right.
Even now, even
now. Yes.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same. Well, which is interesting because you're a guy who develops the properties, buys the shitty ones and makes them look beautiful and gold. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, let's take the profit out of that, right?
Yep.
But you kind of seem to have this mindset of like, oh no, there's a lot more money to be made from this property.
Absolutely.
And it's not just today, but what it's going to be worth in about 5 years.
100%. It's like make money today and tomorrow. That's kind of how I look at it. Why would I choose just today if I can? Because I've done the bulk of the work now, right? I fixed this thing up. It's like a juggernaut now. I mean, you still have to super. My biggest concern there is going to be to find a good tenant, right? So once that's done, why just give it up to someone else? If I was in that game, sure, but I'm in the long-term game. So that's kind of how I look at that.
So then, all right. So back to Brownsville. So Brownsville, you bought a multifamily.
Yep.
And that was a house hack.
Yes, that was a house hack.
And that was an FHA that you did.
That was an FHA. Yes.
Yeah. 3.5% down.
3.5% down. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, to numbers, that was 320,000. Then I was getting to some bigger numbers now. I left my $50,000 and $60,000 house days, and now I was buying stuff in the hundreds of thousands. So But yeah, it was great. It was listed for I think closer to 400. Now when I moved to Chicago and just found out first, I did ask my buddies in Omaha that knew people in Chicago about realtors that I could work with. You know, it was a little harder then because now I consider myself a little more of an investor, right? A little more savvy. So I wanted to I wanted to do a little more negotiation that I wanted to do. Reached out to another gentleman, wanted to submit an offer, and I had to actually push him because he didn't want to. He thought my offer was too low, but it was accepted. I think it was listed for close to 380. We got it for 320.
Oh,
that's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must have been on the market for a while.
It was, yeah. So this was, I mean, you got to think about it. We closed in April of 2020, so this was right before lockdowns or.
That's perfect timing.
Yeah, that was
Perfect
great
Literally
timing.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And the owner was living in Wisconsin. She had a friend who was her buddy who was the listing agent for that. Older ladies. They were not too computer savvy, and so they would take their time to do the showings, and people would want to see the place, and they just weren't always available. And for me, I lived close enough, and I was willing to do the hard work on this one. And they actually didn't want to go with my offer because it was FHA and they needed a few things done.
Right. Yeah, it's not always the easiest to kind of get that done. It's a property that needed work.
It didn't need work, but it had peeling paint on the porch. So, and a few things outside that needed to be done. Like there were some windows that were covered. When I got the offer, when they accepted my offer, there was a few things that needed to be done for them to before my lender would continue, and the seller was not willing to do those things. Like the thing they wanted them to get rid of it,
the paint.
the paint, right?
Yeah.
And it was outside, and so what I did was I was like, hey, you know what? That's fine. That's no problem. I'll do that. This was this is a lady that was in Wisconsin, and she was elderly, and she was like, hey man, like I'm not gonna put up with this. We have another offer that's coming down the pipeline. Your bank wants too many things, so we're just not gonna move forward with this. Oh, no worries. I'll find someone to do this. And I think at first she sent one of her contractors that could do it, and they wanted I think $3 or $4 grand to take care of. They had to take a cover off a window or something like that. But they wanted to make sure that the window wasn't broken, and I was like, no, I'll find somebody to do it. So I ended up finding a guy who I paid I think $500 to go and rip off some paint. Actually, we went over there with the intention to repaint the deck, and he was actually savvy enough. The contractor that I got was like, oh no, with FHA you don't actually have to repaint. You just have to get rid of the old paint. So that over here. So now I'm spending money on this property that's not even mine yet. That's just the level of determination you have to have to make these things happen. I don't know if you imagine someone went by your house and you send someone else. I think I was in. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but like I had to make sure someone was there. I had to make, he didn't have a ladder. I had to make sure we go rent a ladder. He was up on the third floor porch there, fixing up things, just so I could get a little improved. Because at that point, I knew that I have something here that's worth a lot.
Yeah, there's been a number of deals that we've been a part of where the buyer had to go in and do the paint thing. And it's funny how many times that it's such a small little piece, and a lot of times you can just paint right over it, right? And that'll solve the day, and get the loan approved, which is just so silly, the lead paint stuff. But anyways, all right, so cool. So then the rest of the property was mostly like turnkey, or just a little bit outdated.
It was mostly turnkey. So
cool.
there were already
Sweet.
tenants in there. So there was just the one vacant unit that I ended up moving into for about a year, and I was able to just refi that. I mean, that was another great one. I mean, 2020.
So you bought it in 2020. You got a low price on it, and then when did you do the refi?
A year later.
A year later, and it was worth how much?
$460.
That's That's what was happening though during COVID.
Well, right? Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
We
this
went
big
through the
boom.
Yes,
Yeah.
we went through the surge, and now the
That
property.
was
What's the property worth
amazing
today?
timing execution.
Always gotta be in the fives. I
Yeah.
haven't. Yeah. I mean, that's. Yeah. I was like, man, this property is worth more than all the work I've done. I didn't get paid. Like it was $140 bump, $140,000 bump, right? That is crazy. Like,
Wait. So is this an example of buying a turnkey property and letting it ride?
that is exactly that. And yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love it. So you got experience on both sides of this, which is the renovation side and buying turnkey. So it's like you don't always have to buy the most distressed property. You don't have, and I've been kind of speaking about this lately because just knowing the market fundamentals and like we're in a low inventory environment and you're just seeing it is that we have a ton of pent up demand and actually buyers are coming back into the market, and so we're seeing prices just continue to go higher and at a much faster pace. And so recently I've really been saying like, you know, it's okay to buy turnkey and to have that be an investment property, even if it is an investment property. You don't need to take the big risk right now of doing the big renovations and have the interest rate risk too, because we're in the upper sixes right now, maybe low sevens. Okay, so you lived in one of those units and then you rented out, and it was a 3-unit?
it was a 3-unit. Yes.
Yeah, and then you rented out the other 2.
Yeah, and what I was saying here was that even buying that turnkey property, right, there was other challenges there. Like I had one of the tenants in the building was not paying rent, right? So I almost walked away at that point when I found out that, you know, I'm in Chicago now. There's different rules, you know, to getting people to pay rent, and you can rent into people that will take advantage of this stuff.
Can
Right.
I ask, is that required to be disclosed as you're going through the under contract and closing process? Or was that something that they willingly shared? Or how did you find out that, because they typically tell you if there's a lease, right? So you know if there's a lease on the property and what the rent is. But how did you find out if they're not paying?
Yeah, interesting. I think the lady was probably just warning me that, hey, be careful with these people. Like, you know,
The seller.
the seller. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the seller was. You know, I got on her good side, which I always try to do in this process. You know, just make you have to get people to order cards as early as you can, because then that makes everything else go a lot smoother, right? So in those conversations, she shared that, hey, these people have been a headache, right? Because I learned to try to find the pain in the process, because you know it's gonna end up being yours, right? So, why are you selling this property? You know, those questions like, what are some of the problems that have happened? And I felt like, hey, well, I'm out of the state. I'm out of state, and you know, these people that are not paying, and they're very needy. You know, those were her words. So I was, oh man, do I want to inherit this problem, right? So I actually posted a question on Bigger Pockets. I think that was my first post there. Hey, well, what would you do? I have to go back and look at it and see what answers I got. But you know, I followed through, right? So I still did close. And I'll tell you, I've owned that property for 5 years now, and these are the people that did not pay, and they haven't missed a single payment since then.
Oh, so you got them current.
So yep, so that happens, right? So not everybody's good, but not everybody's bad, right? So yeah, they actually just needed someone that would fix things, right? So they're a little particular about certain things. Like I probably upgraded everything else in the unit since then, right? There were some annoying things, right, that I found, but I was like, okay, all right, no, it's not unreasonable, right? But I was a good landlord and took care of them, and they've taken care of me. So.
Oh wow,
That's
wow!
awesome.
So it wasn't just people that were just they couldn't pay and then they were just freeloading it. It was actually they didn't want to pay because they needed some things updated, and the last landlord didn't respect it and whatnot. I see.
So they don't, right?
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a great story, honestly, because how a tenant situation can really turn around if you just treat the tenant like a person. Right.
Yeah, I did. You know, there's every case is different too. So you do have to, don't assume anything, right? Protect yourself, right? Because you just don't know, right? And know that there will be people that will try to take advantage of you, right? So do the pros and cons, and sometimes you just have to, take a chance on certain things. Yeah.
All right. So from there,
Yes.
what'd you do next?
what I do next? So
And how long did you live on that property for?
just about a year.
Yeah.
So about a year, I was getting ready to do something else with it. I was looking to buy my next property. No, actually, it was a little more than a year. It was 2. I ended up staying in there until I bought another FHA. So 2021.
Another FHA. Oh, because you refinanced
Yep.
out of your first one.
I refinanced on that first one.
Yeah. All right.
I got 460, not doing anything. I even got a little bit of money. I think I got 30K back, in cash out from that. All these now free and clear now. Oh, not free and clear. I got all my money back.
Yeah.
From that.
Oh, okay. Your initial investment is back out.
I still have a mortgage on those that I'm paying, obviously, but yeah. So after that, I bought. There was a 4-unit that at that point I had a little more cash, and this was when I took the biggest bet, right? So I had sold my first house in Omaha, the $150,000 house. I got a $70,000 check for that. That I was wanting to put in somewhere else. So I found a 4-unit building that was listed for, I think it was originally listed for $475. I had gotten this. It had continually been, dropped. Right, they have lowered the price a few times, and I eventually got this thing for $295. So this was listed at the height of COVID, where I think it went on the contract a couple of times, so where regulations were changing. I mean, even then, I had some trouble with closing that first FHA property because I was doing contractor work here. And that was something with FHA that I had to. That was an issue with. They had an issue with that because they wanted to make sure they wanted to know what happens after the 6 months contract is over. Are you gonna still have W-2 income coming in, right? So I actually had to email HR and get them to say that I'm going to have work even after my 6 months contract expire, right? Well, all these things you have to do a lot of legwork. Like, so imagine you were getting, and there was a lot of unanswered emails, but we get that done, right? Anyway, so back to the second property there. So it was just persistency too. So I got over there. It had gotten out of contract for like the 3rd time. I think someone was looking to do FHA, but it ended up being so much work there, so that they couldn't do that. And this needed to be. I ended up going hard money with this. So $295. I put down. Was it 15% of that? Something like that. So at this point, this was my first big rehab project that I was going to do. So in my mind, I'm going to go in here. It's a 4-unit. I knew that I could make it work because I'm getting at 300. There was some stuff on the market that were like, it was a big gap, right? So that's what you get in Brownsville sometimes. So there was some high-end stuff that were like million plus, right? And there was some stuff that on the low end that was like 600, right? So it just depends on how much work you're willing to put in, right? So I was in my mind then I was all right. This was my first go at working with a hard money lender. So I went over there, get this property under contract, and I was hoping that I could. They came over there and they appraised it, and they said that it would only be worth around 600K when it was all said and done. Actually, that's like 500 something. So they drastically lowballed what the ARV would be done. It would be when I'm done with the rehab.
Even the hard money lender said that.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I later found out that this can happen, right? Because essentially, if they say your ARV is going to be worth $1 million, that means they can, your loan cost is going to be much higher, right? So, I found out that maybe they're just a little more conservative with their appraisal of their estimate, right? So. This was just something that I didn't know at the time, so I got in here. So all right, because this is only going to be worth 6 something or 500 something, we can only give you about 179,000 in construction. alone. And so, all right, so I got that. I was okay, well, we'll see. I got the first, I think I had maybe 10 contractors bid me for that property because right then, like, I'm getting ready to close and everybody, or I think I had already closed at this point. Everybody else was in the 300,000 and plus. Yo, I got less than I got less than 200K to do this. I think maybe 180, even less than that to do this work. Like, how am I gonna come up with 300,000 to do this work, right? So
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, it's not looking good right now.
No, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. This was a time.
Because what's the purchase price right now?
So 300K.
300.
Yep, 300. And they were telling me that I would need another 300 to put in.
Yep. And they said the ARV was like 600.
Yes.
600.
It's just about 600.
Yeah. So there's
Something like that.
there's no profit.
Yeah, there's no profit, and that's on the low end too. Because I was like, oh man, this is not looking good. So this was, I think, the one I had to actually. Everything has been pretty good so far, but this is the one time that I think I had to sit my wife down and say, hey, I'm gonna get another job to do this work.
That was gonna be my question. What'd your wife say about this?
Yeah. I'm going to. I know this. I know. Like, I believe the ARV is wrong, right? Like, I know I'm seeing stuff out there. If I put in the work, I think I'm gonna get a better value for this, right? I know that. So that's a good thing. I'm a real estate. You can go out there and find comps that would justify, where you need to be, right? You can come and work your way backwards, right? I saw the comps that I used, and these were like across the highway, right? It was same zip code, but across the highway.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
Right. So I was like, man, like these they didn't use Brownsville comps, right? So okay. So and then I've talked to some people that are like, well, I mean, you just gonna have to just paint this room, then just get them ready to go, right? And maybe you'd be okay, right? Maybe you can get maybe $1,200 per unit here, right? So whatever that ended up being, I think when I was getting into this project, I was at best hoping I would be around like 1,500 for like the 4-bed units. That was which was the biggest unit in there. So, but I knew that if I I had the comps of things that were like above that. So I believed in the property, high level, and I was all right. I just got this now. Here are comps that justify this being, I just have to make sure that they qualify. When they're looking at 2 4 units, right? I need them to pick the nicer looking one and the higher ARV one as a comparable to mine. So how many of those things that the new property, that the nicer looking 4 unit have that I can replicate here? So they had an open concept, right? Open floor concept. So they had those. So I had to do that. I had to start moving walls, right? So now all of a sudden, you buy a property that looks good, right? But once you start talking about changing layouts, like
Yeah, so you had to move the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah. I had to move the kitchen from the back to the front.
Oh.
Yeah. To make it open. So yeah.
So they weren't, probably when they did that analysis for you, they didn't anticipate that you were moving kitchens, or?
I didn't. So again, you got to, like, extreme ownership concept, right? Is kind of what I did. I didn't do a good enough job showing them what the final,
what you were gonna do.
Well, what I would do, right? What I would do, right? So, or actually, what I needed to do to make it work, like, because like it's either I cut corners, right, and try to just turn this over and struggle finding good tenants, right? Because or I put in the work that is needed to get to the valuation that I need to, in order to do a successful burr, right? Which is, So I ended up, I got a second job. Was pouring, going, and I'm laughing because even that 180 grand that I was supposed to get from the hard money lender, they actually ghosted me after I closed on this property. So now I'm closed on this property.
Lender?
Yeah. So.
Oh my God.
Who was the lender?
Well, here it goes. So this was a this was more of a brokerage, a mortgage broker, I would say,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't actually go through, because if you're on Facebook, you're gonna see these posts say, hey, we're gonna give you 100% construction, you put down 10%, loan. Like this was 2022, so you're gonna get, like, you get all these people that would promise these things. So that was one of those, right? So they'll work with lenders, right? But they're, I just want to call them mortgage brokers, or private money, something, right? So this is who I went through, right? They're out of North Carolina somewhere, right? And so I closed, and they said I would get this money. They actually, I closed in, I had like $3,000 in extra closing costs. Like, you look at the HUD statement and you see that, oh, I'm like, this is wrong, right? So I tell them, hey, you need to change this so that I can get, like, this is over $3,000. So, oh, yeah, just go ahead and close. Like, I'll take care of you, once you're done. Yeah, so after I close, don't hear from them. And yeah, so now I'm like, okay, this guy's not, like, I only have one guy's phone number, right? I didn't go through the loan docs. Like, at this point, like, I just close and I put the loan docs somewhere, right? I'm like, man, like, okay, like, I just gotta do this thing. I just knew that I had to keep paying, the Harmony lender. I think it was 10%. No, it was 7% then, actually. Yeah, so it was a great rate. So, I mean, you think about 7% Harmony loan now, that is like normal.
It's a normal mortgage.
That's a normal mortgage, right? So yeah, that was the best I could find. So I went with it, but I could not. This guy would not answer my phone.
Sometimes what I've realized is, like, the best rate that you can find on the market comes with the worst service and the worst other terms.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, so these, it's like they have a partnership with other. They're like a front, right? And they get their money from a bank, right? So yeah, so I was into this. I just knew that. I mean, even I was trying to not over leverage, right? Even though I knew that I had this money there, I was trying to get, as much of it done. Like, I think I went about, because I had 70 from my own, from the sale of the house. I think at that point I had, like, sold some stocks. Like, I had to make this thing work, right? So I had everything. I had some credit cards that I was using for the rehab. And I just had to keep piling on in, and, like, I just need to get this done as soon as possible. So it got to the point where I'm like, I really need to get some money from this guy so I can continue the project. So that's when I went down, like, pull back out. When you close on property, you get this stack of papers, and I was like, okay, I gotta find what's holding my mortgage and try to get some money back from these people, so they can pay me for the construction. So if you're familiar with how hard money construction loans work, you get reimbursed for the work that you do. Okay? So at that point I had already done, like I said, I think $50,000 in work, and hadn't received a check from them. So I ended up finding a contact for the lender in there. I ended up calling. It turned out the actually holder of my mortgage is a company in New York. I called them up, and they're like, oh yeah, we have this here, but you have to go through, this other company. We can't work with you directly. And I'm like, hey, listen, like, these people have not answered me. Like, I've sent. So now that I know that, okay, now I got somebody. So I ended up sending them a ton of emails. You guys gotta help me out here. Like, these people are not answering their calls. They're scamming me. Like, I blasted them, right? So. And eventually they're like, okay, fine. We'll you've been paying your Harmony loan all this time. We'll get you through it. So they ended up they ended up actually scheduling the first inspection. So they send their inspector out, and actually they're all right. You don't have to work with this third party company anymore because there's conflict there, right? So we'll just take it on directly. And I was like, okay. Also, I know I only got about 180 in construction. But I'm gonna need about $300K to do this thing. And they're like, yeah, good luck with that.
This is incredible. I know you were able to pull this off, but I'm like, what in the world?
So yeah, they're obviously not gonna give you more offer, right? Because they're like, no, we can't do this. So man, it went on, like, this was a good, year and a half of just grinding this thing out, man. Grinding this thing out, and I've had you know, $30,000 surprises on this thing. You know, I had pipes that burst in the middle of the night. You know, water pouring out in the streets. I had crazy things happen on this project. But that's put in the work, and it eventually got appraised for $870,000.
Once you finished.
Once I finished. Yeah.
So how did you get the money to do the extra work that you needed?
Yeah, so I got so at this point I have about, I did end up getting all the money from they did give me those. I would do the work and then they would pay me as I go. So I gradually got all the 180 that I could get from them. So this is now so now I got about 4 business credit cards to do the rehab. So I had 1 year 0% APR credit cards.
All right.
I shout out Chase.
Yeah.
They helped me get through this one. So I think there were each of them. I had decent credit too. So they were able to give me. I think I had 20 grand on each of those. So I think I was probably a good 70 grand on this. Once I just get this done.
What happened to your credit score when you put all that money in there?
Well, the good news is that's why it was a business credit card. So those were all they were not affect my personal score.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I that's one good thing I did. So those were all business credit cards. So yeah, pays to have good credit, and I was able to do that, and I still had income from my W-2. So I kept that. And yeah, most of that went to that, and everything else. So I would get my paychecks. So now at this point, I'm working 2 jobs. I would get 2 checks that would come in, and then my real bosses will call, which will be my contractor. So I get the money from my W-2 income, and my real bosses, which were my contractors, will call, and they'll take all that money. So that's just kind of like I just kind of kept it going for. I think the toughest part were like the last 4 months, and that's
it's always the last part of the project where you've exhausted all the cash.
Yes.
And you're trying to finish it, and you're trying to find out where it's going to come from.
Yeah.
And so you took it straight from your other job's income.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
So what was the time? This was like 2023 when you bought this. Is that time
Yeah,
right,
this
or
was
was it a little earlier?
2022.
Okay, because I was trying to do the timing here. I'm like, okay, so you just moved to Chicago, you had a baby, you are kind of in the middle of COVID, and now you're taking on this really big project, and you did 75 hard in 2021. So there were kind of like a lot of things happening for you.
Absolutely.
Right around all that time.
Yeah, crazy time, man.
Dude, this
It's
is
a lot.
what an
And a
epic
job.
what an epic story. All right, so then you got this over $800,000 value that you now still own, and then you were able to pull out 75% of that, right?
Yeah, I was even more. So I ended up getting.
You pulled out 25%.
I was able to get a little more.
Oh, right, yeah,
okay. Because at that point rates were so I think I have a mortgage of 6.75% on that now. So this was beginning 2023, which at that time I was like, man, this is ridiculous. Like, I'll refinance this as soon as I can, right?
Yeah.
And I just called up actually this like a few months back, and I'm like, nah, bro, you still have a good rate, so just hold on to that thing. But it is an adjustable mortgage that I had a 7-year arm on it, so I do have a little bit of time. Again, won't recommend this for everyone, but that's what I needed to do in order to get all this debt paid off and maximize my my cash out. So I think it was closer to 80 on that one. That was a good get out.
That's out. Wow.
Yeah. And that took care of paid everything else off. I think I got a check over $300,000 when I was done.
And this was the project that had the hey, I was 200 over budget.
That's the project.
That's the project.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love this.
Sitting here talking to you, your demeanor is so calm and level. Is that how you are as you're going through all this stuff too? Like you just kind of
100% for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, there are times.
You know that meme where the guy's drinking coffee and there's a fire in the background?
Yeah, well, I'm just, yeah, I mean,
What are you gonna do, right? I mean, you can freak out. Like the day that, the scariest part for me was the day where, like, you come in the basement. Like I was on my way out, right? This was because I would check on my properties after work, sometime in the evening. Like on my way out, I hear just sounds like rain in the basement. So so I come down, the basement is flooded, and pipes busted, and water's everywhere, and I go out on the street, and it's coming. So the main water actually broke. So like water's on the streets, outside, in my basement, and it's everywhere. And I had to break. Like you're gonna need to like tear out this, dig in the streets to fix this thing. And I remember making a video that day. Everybody still asks me about that, and that day I was a little scared. It was probably one of the scarier ones. Like, man, like I'm already deep in this, and here's a scary. First couple of people I called said this is gonna cost you close to 20 to 30 grand. I think I ended up finding someone to do it for like 15 or something like that. So. I mean, not great, but hey, now, because I had to do that, I ended up, all right, like, let's do it right. So now I replaced all the plumbing, all the water lines up to there's a coach house in the back there. So that I redid all that. So now that's doing great. I mean, there's these units that I was originally thought would be at best renting for, 13, 14. I even called a realtor up to, give me an estimate of how much you think this would rent for. I think he said no, 1,200, right? Like now, my lowest rent there is 2,000, right? And I have a midterm rental there that's about 2,500. This is I made a small 600 square foot coach house into a nice looking midterm rental, right? And I'm able to get winter time's a little slower, around 2,100, but in the summertime I can get up to 2,500 for that. And I have one that I live in, so I fluctuate the midterm one into midterm and Airbnb, depending on the season. Just make it work.
Oh, so you do the Airbnb, the short term?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I do. Yep.
Yeah.
Short term that one.
So wait, do you still live in this property, or no? You moved out?
No, I moved out now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now,
All right, so actually, I want to talk about that midterm and the Airbnb stuff because that's pretty fascinating. You've had some stories with the Airbnb, haven't you, or no?
Yes. Yeah, I've had my very first Airbnb guest ended up was very messy. I just put it that
That's
way.
what I remember.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there was pizza crumbs on the bed and on the sofa everywhere. So I've had to deal with ants for a few months after that. That was terrible. So that was my very first guy. Man, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks for this. So, but then and then I got some 4-star that everybody, they said everything else was great, but they gave me a 4. So that was a little come on, man. But everything else has been pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, so it's cool that you kind of switched because in Chicago it's kind of the hard part. So you were able to get the Airbnb license because you did live there at one point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you still have it, and then you can switch. You can switch from midterm in the winter months. That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah. I just kind of stumbled on that. I've spoken to you. I've spoken to Jenny about midterm, right? And she recommended, Furnish Finder. Shout out to Jenny. So that helped me, and I was able to get someone in there around October, and they stayed for the winter essentially. So that was awesome. And when it came back around to spring and summer, got some listings, got some bookings or Airbnb. So I would just rock with that.
Yeah. Boy, you're rolling in the dough here. You've got, but what the beautiful part is that all of this shit was fucking hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of this was hard. And all right, so where do you go from there?
Yeah, so after that, did that project, and we now I got some, I got a little bit of success, and I got some buddies that want to do projects, so we bought a 6 units after that. Yeah, bought a 6
So
unit.
this is your first commercial deal.
First commercial deal,
Yeah.
and partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was also pretty good. We got that was mostly turnkey in the sense of I could have it was all units were rented, right? But we wanted to be able to get the rents up a little higher. So I think the average rent there was about 1,100, 1,200 when we took it over. A couple of tenants that were not up to date on their rent payment. So those were the two that we were able to rehab first. So and gradually did it that way. So we do that now. I have all 6 units. Well, actually, 5 out of the 6 units I've seen a high level of renovation. So newer finishes, flooring, air conditioning. That's like the one thing that I like to do in all my units. And
Were there furnaces to begin with? Or
there were furnaces.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Cool.
that was
Good buy.
so,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that was a solid win there because all I had to do was add the condenser unit. You don't have to run with duct, right?
Definitely.
Is this one the same area as Chicago and Bronxville?
Yeah, this one's in Washington Park.
Okay,
Very close to the university.
nice.
Yeah, so that one was $600K. We got in, I had to put 20% down conventional. We raised a little bit of money to do the rehab there, so I was, do the turnover. But that was
So between your partners, you guys were able to pitch in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get the funds for the
Yeah,
rehab.
the funds, we raised about 175, so 20% plus some to do the rehab. Average rent now is around 1,800 from the 12.
Nice. And then have you refinanced out of that, or?
I have.
Yeah.
As of 2 weeks ago, we got the numbers. We are 1.1 on that.
1.1.
Yeah, 1.1 million.
Yeah, and you bought it 600 and put
Right.
in
4,600K. We probably put in about. This is fresh off, so we're going back and tallying everything up. But I believe so. Probably another. Okay, so we put on 175. So it's 120 went to the down payment. So we had 50 left to do the work, and I think we raised another round of about 70K. So about 120 that went into it.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice.
In there. So
Nice margin there.
yeah, the good on the commercial side too, you do get to use the rents to it's all about how much rent you're bringing in. They also use some comps, right? But what I learned about that is you really have to drive your destiny on those things. Like if you when I do, it's a whole. I believe the day the appraiser is coming out is the most sacred day as for a real estate investor. You have to make sure. I mean, you have to prep a little bit before that as well. But I show up there. I give him enough proof that my property is worth what I think it's worth, right? And that's you have to be very organized. So I keep track of everything else that I've done. I keep track of all my numbers. I show the comps that I think are similar to mine, and hopefully they use that. Because then I make it hard for him to argue that it's not worth that when I do that. When I do that much work, it's been pretty good.
What cap rate did they end up putting that at?
I believe I got a copy of the appraisal like 2 days ago, but I think I have to get back to you on that. I want to say 7 something.
Yeah. Well, if a turnkey building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want to
And
say.
in Washington Park. Yeah. 7.
Dang. All right.
Can we shift a little bit and into the credit card hacking that you talked about?
Yeah, let's go back to the shout out at Chase.
Well, I'm so curious about this. So we're actually leaving for vacation next week, and
Yeah.
this is the first time that we've even attempted to like
Oh, yeah.
use some of our points. And Jason tasked me with it. He's like, "Wonderful does this all the time. Just figure out how we can like get our flights and get our hotels and get this." And it's there, but I didn't find it like super easy because it's kind of a puzzle. Each card is different, and you gotta like move
Yes.
points around. I'm just curious, like your
Yeah.
process and how you got it
Absolutely,
figured it
yeah.
out. And
Absolutely. So I mean, all this stuff I don't figure out. I just find smart people that help out. So like I thought I was for as long as I can remember, I thought I was very smart by the way I used it, which was I stack a lot of points and I use it to just pay off the balance, right? And which is the worst way to do this, right? And I think you might have done this too, Jason, or just use it for frivolous things, right? Like I would because I would put everything on one credit card. So I think I started off with Capital One credit card. So I would, after a year or so, I'll probably end up with like 80,000 points, which was like $800 if you want to take out cash. Now, right, so I would just pay off the balance there, and I think I even use it to or go in a portal to buy a flight then, right? So which is the worst way to do it, right? So what I learned is that there are partners. So all these credit card companies. So there are certain credit cards companies that are good to do this with. So that's the Chases of the world. Capital One is one of them. American Express is also one of them. So what you do with them is, and because they allow you to transfer your card to other airlines, a ton of airlines, right? So if you were to get, as opposed to getting like a Delta credit card, with that, now you're now stuck with Delta, right? You have to get Delta miles, or like a US. I have a US bank card, right? I use it to get 18%, 0% APR, but it doesn't get me any points that I can transfer to other airlines, right? So Chase is great for that one because it has a very low fee. I think the Chase Sapphire card has a very low fee. I think it was about less than $100 to be.
I'm with you. All right, one more break here.
One more break. All right, so this one.
We are filling everything out.
Yeah, we are filling everything
I
out.
hope it's for good stuff.
Oh, dude, it's all gold,
awesome.
man. It's all gold. We're still good here.
Okay.
And then
that one's still going too.
yeah, and that one's still
holding
going.
strong.
So this one is just I've got phone storage full. Classic. just classic. All right.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Keep going on that.
Okay. Yeah. So you need to have a certain credit card. So yes, let's just say this: it is very hard to figure out. You do have to get into the. You do have to get this was like another side of social media for me when I was like find this out, and then once you start, it's just called credit cards hacking, right? So you can start your homework there, just looking at
Credit cards hacking.
yeah, point hacking, yeah,
Credit card hacking.
yeah. So the first way I actually did this was to spend. My goal at first was to open up a new card. You spend few $1,000, then $5,000, and they give you $900, right? I think that's actually what I get it for. To get if I'm gonna spend anyway, right? And with the projects that I did, I ended up having to get these credit cards, right? And okay, I don't have to, they're paying me West Fargo never did this, right? So I started out with West Fargo cards, and they never did this. So my first Chase card that I got, I was able to get this $900. Right now, $900 is actually worth 90,000 points, right? 90,000 miles, 90,000 points, right? So now, because so you can either go on. So the first one for me was actually let's look at when I'm going back home to Togo, right? So you can get you can take Ethiopian Airlines, right, to go to Togo from Washington D.C. Or let's go to Europe because I also use it to go to Spain. So you can use your points, right? So now instead of you can buy an economy ticket for Chicago to Spain for what, I don't know, maybe $600-700, right? So and you can either use your points, right, to pay that off. So that means you can take your, let's say that I got 90,000 points on my Chase card now. So instead of I can then take that, convert that to cash, $900, and pay for my economy class. That is not a good redemption rate, right? So what I found out is now on a website like for airline, like Iberia is one of Spain's airline companies, and they're offering business class flights for about 50,000 points, something like that. Yep. So then what you do is on their websites where you can put in your origin and your destination, and they will tell you the best value you can get for your points, right? So one of the websites is seats.aero, and you tell it your origin and your destination, and it will tell you these are all the airlines and how many points you will need to book these flights on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope no one's losing me here, but essentially, so you find it.
So you're on seats.aero.
Seats.aero. Yeah.
That's the website.
That's one of the websites.
You're just putting in the destination, and then it's telling you the most efficient way to use it. Okay.
So it will tell you that Delta will charge you 100,000 miles for this. They'll tell you that Air Canada will only charge you 40,000 points for this, right? So, and that's because and you might wonder why are these miles so different based on their airline, right? So, I think so they're all part of an alliance, right? So airlines have these alliances. Again, I'm not the best at this, but this is the buddies that I go to who actually told me, hey, don't be a dummy. This is a better way to use your points, right? Because tell me these things, and I've watched a ton of YouTube videos on this after the fact, right? So they are airlines that you're also able to book, like you can book Chicago to Miami on Southwest, right? But you can also book it on like American Airlines. You can also book it on United, right? So so they have all these partnerships, right? So there is One World partnership and the Star Alliance partnership. So depending on the partnership that you go to, they may price it a little differently because maybe that's not their common route, right? Like they don't get too many of these, or they like certain, depending on the season, like just their customers have a higher need for a certain route, right? So you might end up finding that it's actually cheaper on their portal. Right? So that's kind of how you end up finding deals on these other airlines. So it's not very straightforward, or that's not intuitive, right? But once you do go on websites like that, just find the best way to use your points. This is what I always ask, right? So you just Google that. ChatGPT is going to be a good one for that now.
Oh yeah, good
there's
idea.
Whoa! You just made things so much easier. Yeah.
Start with that.
Wow, and that's been working. Have you been trying that?
Yes, yeah. And I also have a buddy too that I go to. He has a consultation. You can reach out to him, and then can drop his contact.
Oh, like he does it as a profession?
Yeah.
Like.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been pushing him to do this because I'm like, this is because for me, like, I mean, think about it this way, right? You're looking at, as an immigrant, where you have family abroad, and your biggest expense out of the year is going to be your travel back home, right?
Yeah.
These are it's almost $2,000 to go back home, right? 15 to $2,000, and you're telling me that, like, instead of paying $2,000 or $1,500 for this, like if you're working a minimum wage job and your family's abroad, it's going to be hard for you to spend that money every year to go see your family, right?
Yeah.
So don't go buy stuff that you're not gonna buy, right? Like you would normally not buy. Right? If you get one or two of these cards, you put all these miles on it, you pay it off all the time. Right? You can't do this game without good credit. Right? Let's start off with that. You gotta have good credit because these cards do have a fee, right? There is they do have an annual fee. I think the lowest ones are about $100. And there's some zero annual fee cars that you can also get this with.
Mhm.
So you think about it that way. You get one of these cars, you've bought stuff that you normally buy. Like when I was getting 78,000 points on my first credit cards, I wasn't doing anything crazy. Like I just put everything on there that I can.
Just your normal
Yeah,
expenses.
just my normal stuff.
Yeah.
If I can pay my utility bill with my credit card, I'll do it. Right?
Mhm.
I'll call them up and put my credit on there. I will not use it. I will not use my credit card to pay for things that would charge me though, right? Like I would, because then it's not worth it. This game is to spend as little as possible on that. So have all the expenses, go through that. Now because I have tens of thousands of expenses with my construction, I have a bunch of points that I can redeem.
Yeah.
So then you just use that. ChatGPT, ask it to give you the best reward for these points. Put in your destination. It will give you some options. There's a lot of blogs there. There's the point guide. You can read up on things there. And also these are actually I would advise getting business credit cards for these, which is if you have one LLC, you can have a business credit card with just your social too, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just do, you drive Uber, you sell stuff on Amazon Marketplace, get yourself a cool name, register your entity, and you can get the docs, whatever those are called, and then you can apply for a credit card. Right? That way you don't have to carry these balances on your personal, right? Because with all this stuff, I was nervous at first, but I just checked and I'm back in 800 credit scores. So that's with having a ton of business credit cards and millions in real estate debt, right? But you play this game the right way, it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I love the whole ChatGPT thing. I didn't even think about that in terms of.
I know, I forget about it so often. I've been using it a lot more lately, just to ask like basic questions, but yeah, you can use it for so much more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean that makes a lot of sense. So when we did all of our rehab financing, we actually did it with we did personal credit cards. That was in our personal name.
0%.
That was 0%. And at one point I probably had like 5 of them going, and they each probably had anywhere between like a $7,500 balance to like a $15,000 credit limit, right? So it was like, so we'd stack them all. But I had a great spreadsheet, which was like, I knew when this one was ending on the 0%, and then
so we never paid interest on
but you know what that does? It fucks your credit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It totally destroys your credit. So you did it the smart way. I did not. And
your credit usage is going to be through the roof.
Yep.
On that one.
Yeah. So the credit utilization, it takes away on your on our score. So at one point we probably had like low 500s in a credit, but it was all because, and I'm just like, who cares? Like it doesn't matter because
when we paid them all off, everything just like
at the end of the day, when you do go to sell the property or like you get the cash out, right, and then you go and pay off those, the money that you use for the rehab, all of a sudden your score goes through the roof.
I mean,
so.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, if I didn't have that option, I would definitely have been putting it on my personal as well. But yeah, you do try to. The danger in that is, when it comes to refi, you might run out of options, right? So
because they have to qualify you.
They have to. Yep.
You have to be qualified on that refinance.
Right.
Yeah. And if you destroyed your credit, all of a sudden you're really hard to get a loan for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did refi that property you're talking about. I think the credit cards were in my name because
Yeah.
I had a job you didn't.
Yep.
And you ended up
That's the
refi.
thing.
So
Yeah.
leverage
It
your
was.
wife.
You go back to that whole thing of like how your partner can help you achieve goals. So that was our secret, which was
carried the debt.
It's one of us was going to carry the debt, and and try to keep the other one still alive there.
Yeah, worked out. It's all good.
But these are the battle scars. These are the real life battle scars, and it's not all sunshines and rainbows, but the rainbows come after all the hard stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to solve some problems. In all these deals, there are people that had pain, and you have to be willing to take it on. You have to find the ones that make sense for you, right? But yeah, there's reward in solving that problem.
Yeah. And so how many apartments do you have now?
Yeah, so I have a 3 unit under construction and 17 units that are rented currently.
Nice.
Awesome.
So 20 apartments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Oh, that's awesome. And you started, what was the year that you started?
I bought my first investment property in 2019.
2019. Yeah,
It
same.
hasn't been that long.
That's the same as us.
Yeah,
Same as us. We just got our
5-6 years.
we just got our 22nd
Nice.
unit. Yeah, we closed on it actually earlier this week. And yeah, we started in 2019.
Awesome.
So it's like nice.
Yeah.
Nice little pace here.
It was a good. Yeah, it was a good time then. I mean, you just have to keep going though. For me, it's like, I know the market isn't as great now, but you just have to keep going, smartly, not a smart way. Smartly is the word, but smartly.
In a smart way. Yeah. What's like what's the ultimate goal for you?
With the real estate?
Yeah.
Or
Or wherever. Like, where are you going? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
You got 20. I mean, you got 20 now, right? So
Yeah.
what is it? What is that? What's the number that like does it for you? Or like, or have you thought about it?
I not as much as I used to in the beginning. It was more about a higher number of doors. But I found out that I would rather have solid performing properties, right? That are bringing in great rent, or tenants are happy and paying on time. I mean, I'm 20s. I'm still far away from that number, but I think it's less about the number of doors, right? So more about the cash flow coming in. And
Yeah.
actually, no, I don't want to say cash flow, because I've learned that it's all about the net worth that you're building to,
Yeah.
the equity that you're able to use for other things, right? So if you're able to get all these assets, right? What the rich do, right? You have all these assets for you, and when something happens, what to do, you're gonna have to maybe sell one of those to take care of a problem, right? So as much of those little guys that I can assemble that would shield me from life's pain or life's problems. That's kind of what I'll try to get. And now I'm thinking about it this way. Just think about it this way. First year, right, we're buying these things, and we're so worried about cash flowing year 1 or year 2. Like, you get this thing, but think about it. Like, in 15 years or 10 years, like, let's say that your mortgage is a third paid off or something like that. Your rent is gonna be that much higher. Like it's they're working in inverse, right? One is going up and one is going down, which is your net worth is going up and your debt is going down. Just about 20 years from now, even 30, like it's gonna get really good once you don't have a mortgage on it. So just hang on there, right? It's good now, but you just wait. Imagine getting all this friend and not having to pay the bank for it.
Right.
Yeah, this is gonna be sweet.
So is that the retirement game?
I think so. Yeah, just have as many of these things that can cover my expenses as possible. Hopefully by that time, the rent have say rent doubles every 10 years or something like that. I think I read that somewhere. Maybe shorter these days. But yeah, just play your games right. Find an area that you believe in, has a long-term horizon in, has the fundamentals in place, and just stick it out.
Yeah. And have you gone through evictions or?
Yes, I have.
That story?
Yeah, I have. So I've had one in COVID, and during COVID in Omaha. Actually, I was able to get. The thing about Chicago is it's kind of crazy when you have a tenant that decided to take advantage of you, right? And that's for one reason or another. And I've seen your post, and man, I feel your pain, man. When I see that you have to do cash for keys, just that, like, I just look at. There's some part of me that just really, really struggles with that. There's just someone out here that sees that, there's no idea all the hard work that I put into this and wants to take advantage, and it just really irks me. And there are people out there that do that. I haven't gotten to officially wait to serve someone the papers. My worst ones have come with just not. I mean, because been fortunate enough to do a certain level of screening. I still pick the wrong guy. Like my last guy that left, he applied for a unit and got in, and he claimed his income, and I don't know how much due diligence I did on that, but it turned out that income was from taking care of his mom. So he was getting a social security check or whatever that is, which is fine, but I just kind of overinflated things a little bit, so and that doesn't always, you don't always get that, or there would be another thing that would happen. So he had, I took that, I was like, okay, well, he's taking care of his family, that's fine. And then he showed me another income, but then he wasn't as, there were just a few other things that would happen in the unit. So for me, it's like now he's putting, this was a 6 unit, so now he's putting all the other tenants in the building in a bad spot, right? Because that means he's coming with the parties. He's coming with the showed up with, first day I got there after signing the lease over, there's 3 little dogs in there, and there was only supposed to be 1 emotional support animal. So,
Yeah.
Man, I'm in here for a rough one,
Yeah.
It's like, what am I gonna do now? But, it stuck it out. You just have to, from day one, just show that, like, let them know that, hey, I'm laying down the law here, like, you have to, I try to, let him know that he's not gonna, because if I have budge on certain things, like I had to charge late fee when he was late, I had to threaten eviction, I have to serve him on the 6th, right? And that helped, he ended up, the last 3 months, I ended up not paying, but he did leave at the end of the lease, and I was able to get someone else in there. I mean, staying stoned when I was going through it, but hey, that's on me, I gotta find a better applicant.
Yeah, a little backstory on ours. So yeah, we're going through 2 evictions right now. The same building, which stinks. The same building, but it's been okay because I was able to do the cash for keys on one of them, and we were only behind really on 2 months, and this would really be like the 3rd, but we are going to start leasing it again next week. So really it ended up being a much better situation than it could have been, because I've got this other one where they stopped paying in December and they're still there, and then we just got the order to allow them to be evicted, and so now we put it in with the sheriff, but now the sheriff is apparently the sheriff is backlogged, and so they're another 2 months out to get them out. So that is that's December, January, February, March,
Like 6
and then April, May. So that's probably what we're looking at in
Did you
terms of
try cash for keys for them too? Or?
So they have, so we're gonna have to, I mean, I did try that. The problem is they don't have anywhere to go, and they're a bad situation. They're mentally not there, and they really can't do anything. So it's a tough one, but.
Did you inherit these?
I inherited them. Yeah, the last guy we put in, and that one's really hard to prevent, honestly, because what happened here was that it was a woman that applied, and it was supposed to be her and her daughter, who was 5, that was going to be living there. She had the income, she had the credit, she had a great background, and then all of a sudden there was another guy that just moved in, and. I didn't think anything of it because they did pay, about 3 months worth of rent, and one of them was late, but they paid it, and they paid the late fee, but then they stopped paying, and then I served them the notice, and and I had to do that a couple times, and and ultimately I was just like, I don't know how I could have prevented that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I did screen her.
Right.
But I don't know how I could have prevented. Well, there was this actually another guy who was Phantom, who just moved into the apartment. Because I guess what I could have noticed was that, oh, wait, there's somebody else that's living there. You're not on the lease. This is a problem.
Right.
But the thing was that they paid me. So I was kind of like, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal. So I don't really know how to prevent that.
That's a tough one. Yeah. It's hard. I try to make sense of the needs. Like I do these now. I screen as an interview. Like I talk to them, try to figure out, what makes sense here, and you have to, make sure you're doing, you're giving them a fair chance, but you do get to decide, hey, at the end of the day, like this thing doesn't make sense to me. Like this story doesn't make sense. Like I get these applicants now. I'm seeing a crazy amount of income being reported, and okay, let me talk to your last tenant. Oh, I've actually moved out of there. I've been looking for a property now for the last couple of months, so I'm just staying with a buddy in the meantime. Like someone who's making 6 figures is not gonna be just comfortable living, crashing on a buddy's couch for 4 months while they look for a property. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess
there's
what
certain
here's what I didn't do. I didn't do a landlord verification.
Yeah.
Right, I talked to the last person, because if they were doing that scheme, like this was a pretty well oiled. It felt like it was intentional from the beginning. Like we'll pay a few months and then we'll just stop paying,
Right.
and then we'll do a cash for keys situation.
Yeah, that's. I mean, even like I've been also now, because I try to think about, okay, how can they get me, right? Like definitely speak to the previous tenant, previous landlord, but you definitely want to talk to the landlord before that. So the last two, right? Because previous landlord was trying to get rid of this guy.
Oh yeah.
So he's gonna tell you, hey, it's the best person ever. Like,
Yeah.
Literally yesterday, I called the previous tenant on an applicant, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they were so good. They pay rent 2 weeks in advance." And I'm like, there's no way, like, because I already had some doubts.
Nobody's paying rent 2 weeks
Nobody's
in
paying rent.
advance.
Nobody's paying rent. 2 months in advance. I even let out a chuckle, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great." Thank you.
Thanks for telling me what I need to know.
Right,
Yeah.
because they have buddies that would give them the number, right? And they'll try to sign professional. So you just have to, again, protect yourself. And for me, if I can confirm, like the one time I was like, oh, I can't reach these people, I guess, I tried my best, right? I couldn't get a hold of the previous landlord. I couldn't get a hold of I couldn't confirm the job. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I guess I tried, and then I took them, and they ended up stopping rent. So if I can verify anything, I'd rather be wrong and go vacant than take a chance and have to pay for it later. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice. Sweet, man. I think we got to probably wrap this up, and this was a fantastic conversation. Bro, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, Rachel. So how we kind of do the wrap up here is what's the biggest takeaway from the conversation? So I'll always start with Rachel.
Yeah, he always does me first. I really liked what you said. It was kind of earlier on about how real estate's really forgiving. And I think you said when we were off camera just for a brief period, every transaction or deal that you've had, there's been something, right? There's always something that's going to happen. There's always something that's going to come up. But in the grand scheme of things, it's very forgiving, and property values are going to continue to go up, and so you're in the long-term equity gain. And I just think that's such great perspective, because I think initially when people start thinking about investing, and all they think are horror stories, and they're there, right? You shared a bunch of them, right? There's so many, and they were there for you right from the beginning, right? That first investment property with the copper being stolen and the Walmart renter, right? Like you felt it right in the beginning, but it's not about those brief moments. You just keep going, keep persevering, because it is forgiving, and in the long term, it's worth it. Like you said, it's going to be great in 20, 30 years when you're just bringing in cash and not paying the mortgage. And I really enjoyed that. That was good perspective.
Yeah, totally. My big thing here is that, again, I think it kind of goes with when I first introduced you. You're just a transparent guy, and transparency just gives trust. Yeah. Right. And look at you. You've got stories of like, hey, I was able to get some of my buddies to go in on a project with me, and we raised the money.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't your family; it was your friends.
Right.
You convinced your friends, but you convinced your friends because you had past experiences and you were transparent, and you've been that way your whole life, it sounds. And it's only going to serve you well by being transparent and sharing the wins and the losses and the bullshit. And you combine it with Rachel's forgiveness on the real estate end, and everyone's going to be happy in the end. you know, it's a fantastic way to carry yourself, and so I give you a lot of credit for that, and it's well deserved. So
For sure.
that's kind of like my big takeaways. I just appreciate all these stories and hearing the battle scars, and then being like, yeah, it's gonna be pretty sweet when we got these properties paid off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's gonna
it
be
is.
pretty sweet. I need to frame that.
Yeah.
And what about you? What was the biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Yeah, so for me, it's when you're out there in the battle, there's, you know, we all got scars, you know, just kind of like you said. I hear yours, and like it's not all sunshine and rainbows for you know, you're out there too. Like I see, because sometimes when it's happening to you, you might think you're the only one that's going through it. But if you're out there in the arena, you're fighting, you're gonna get some arrows thrown at you. You're gonna have some in the back, right? So if you don't want any of that, then don't get in there, right? But if you do, if you want a reward, then you have to be ready for some of the pain that makes for the biggest stories. Like, you know, if I had come on here and said, oh, okay, I bought this and it was all great, I would have been a cool story, but it wouldn't have been as great as this one, right? So, for some of those pain that we've gone through, and having my goal and kind of how my vision now is just think about how good it's going to be down the line, because you do forget. The good thing about life is you forget some of the pain, right? Life rewards you for the work that you put in, right? And a few years, I'm sure when some of these troubles that are going through, I had some sleepless nights, right? But it's hard to remember those now. Like that's how crazy it is, right? You just continue, and you'd be good. So just stick it out and put in the fight.
Oh yeah. Wonderful. How could let's see, what's your Instagram and how can people follow you?
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful Invests. Mr. Wonderful Invests.
People are gonna be thinking that you're tied with Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, no, he's a fake Mr. Wonderful. He's got real money though.
Yeah. All right, awesome, brother. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And
yeah, I mean, I want to say too, thanks for having me. You guys are awesome. You know, it's energy of people like you that keep me going. Like, you know, knowing that I can call you up and when I have an issue, and I've called you up on several occasions, or I was just watching your stuff too, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me here.
No, of course, man. That's what this is all about, you know. And yeah, so if any of you guys found any value in the show, which I guarantee it, I mean, the credit card stuff is just like, we're all going to be going to ChatGPT and being like, I've got 100,000 points. How do I, you know, utilize that stuff?
Sure.
Like that's gonna be one of the best parts here. Yeah. But if you found any value in the show, please share it, and we'll catch you on the next episode.